Okay, folks, welcome to another edition of Around the Rink. Today we're joined by Kim Perepeluk, a Hockey Saskatchewan facilitator and mentor. Kim and I are going to have a discussion on the importance of body checking. Welcome, Kim.
Thanks for having me.
So, at what age do you believe players should start learning checking skills and why?
I think, coming from a pedagogical aspect, I think the sooner the better. I think U9, U11, U13 is when players can go through progressions of learning how to check along the boards, open ice, with the puck, without the puck. And I think that those types of skills should be developed, they should be taught. And I think as the players grow and the game gets quicker, I think they'll be much more prepared for what they're going to see in the future years of hockey.
Safety is always front and center when it comes to any sport. So how would proper checking skills contribute to player safety rather than increase the risk of injury?
Well, I think we need to approach it a little bit different. I think that, there was a time when, the person without the puck obviously are in the defensive mode and trying to check. But I think the responsibility needs to lie both on the player with the puck and the person that's checking. And I think that just creating an awareness, I think that there needs to be elements of safety regarding where they are in relationship to the boards, and I think that I think allowing the players with the puck to feel more comfortable is a real key when they're getting checked, whether it's along the boards or in the open ice.
Hockey is a continuously evolving sport, whether it's skating, shooting, and this includes body checking. So, in your opinion, how has the approach to teaching body checking changed over the years?
Well, I think the biggest shift in the game has just simply been the size and the speed of the game. I think that the players are so skilled, they're so fast now that I think that the open ice checks, the higher collision areas that used to take place, I think are gone simply because there was a stat I read, the NHL put out that 25% more of injuries are happening when the person initiates the check now. So players are bigger, faster, stronger, and I think that the proper technique of checking will promote more safety versus perhaps the impact, which we used to applaud in our game.
So in the progressions to teaching body checking, so body checking is the final step. So what are some key skills or techniques players must develop before being introduced to full-on body checking?
Well, like I said, I think there has to be a mentality shift. I think you need to be able to understand your awareness and your position on the ice. I think that, how fast is the person coming at you? What angle are they coming at? What's your position to the boards, location? I think there's so many things that happen in a game, and it happens real quick. I mean, that's the nicest thing about hockey. It's a quick game. So I think ultimately, I think that players need to shoulder check. They need to be aware, spatial awareness of where they are. I think they need to brace themselves or certainly be prepared for some type of impact. And I do believe that knowing your relationship to the boards is very important for player safety, especially when you get 10 to 12 players on the ice.
Another very important thing that we always, I guess when people think of body checking, they have a tendency to it's always about the checker. They always think about the checker. So how does learning to give and receive checks improve overall game awareness and positioning?
Well, I think it's kind of that old analogy, right? You walk in someone else's shoes. I think you can experience, the proper way and the improper way. And I think that we as coaches need to encourage, the responsibility lies on both. With the puck and without the puck, and I truly believe that in teaching the proper techniques of angles, of separation, stick on puck, finishing, whether it's body contact or body checking, I think the sooner we do it, the safer the game will be, and I think more accepting and more effective these checkings will be.
So, body checking, how would that help building confidence and physical toughness in players?
Well, can toughness be taught? I think that I think it's a confidence thing. I really think it comes down to a technique thing as well. I think that when you look at 15U, there's such a discrepancy in size and weight and strength. So I think our emphasis needs to be on the responsibility on both players. I think it needs to be on teaching players how to receive a check, not just give the check. I think that being elusive, I think that being aware of your surroundings are really, really key. And I think at the end of the day, we never talk about it, but the least amount of times you get hit, certainly the better you are. So continue to move your feet, continue to know what time of the game, the angle, the speed, the size of who's coming in is so important.
Body checking begins at the U15 age group. So I'm a U13 coach. What should I be teaching to prepare my players as they advance up into U15 the following season?
Well, I think we could get ahead of it. Certainly, it's a good question with our U13 coaches. I know that, there was a time where parents and players were flocking to the spring hockey between U13 and U15 because that was their first introduction of it. But I think that the sooner the better. I think that angles, stick on puck, proper technique. I think ultimately understanding that it's about separation, right? It's about separating the player from the puck. And then, that's part of it. That's it. I think that if we focus too much on the physicalities of it, again, the game's really quick. I think the games are gone. Those days are gone. And I think that officials now also are really promoting and watching the player safety as far as, are they in a vulnerable situation? And if they are, in most cases, it's gonna be called, and I'm fine with that.
Now, you probably touched on a few of these points, but I'm a parent of a smaller player moving into U15 hockey. Is there any advice? Like, I know you touched on a little bit there, but is there any other advice you'd give to me as a parent with my child heading into U15?
Well, I think the biggest part of any, succession into a higher level is I think you got to trust your coaches. I think we as a province do a pretty good job with all of our Coach 1s and Coach 2s and D1s and D2s. And I think we're going to continue even at the HP1 level to try and encourage coaches to learn the proper techniques. I think it's partial, a bit of they just need to overcome if they have a little bit of anxiety or fear of getting hit. There's always a fear of injury, but certainly that can happen, anywhere at any time. So I think that my only suggestion would be to trust your coaches, and to ensure that, and trust your child. Encourage them to be part of the game, to adapt depending on their size. I think skating is so important. And the other thing as a parent, which is, a few things we have control of, is to make sure they're playing at a level that's appropriate to their skill and size. And I think that we never talk about it, right? But at the same time, I think that is our responsibility as parents to put our children in the best situation to enjoy the game, be safe, and be successful.
So I'm a U15 coach. How would I incorporate a successful strategy utilizing checking as part of one of our team tactics?
Well, I think the two major areas are whether it's in the middle of the ice or away from the boards or along the boards. I think that those would be the two most significant approaches I would take. I think that allowing the players in practice to be a little bit slower, teach more the technique versus full speed, and building confidence in both the player with the puck and without the puck to try and ensure that they're effective, and to teach the players that it's not necessarily the hardest hit that's the most effective, but what's the purpose of it? And that's, to separate the player from the puck, and going from offense to defense and causing a turnover. There is no other purpose of it. Sometimes the other part, which I think is becoming more and more effective, is stick on puck, good angling, open ice or along the boards, and just making sure that you're effective with your stick. And I think that, again, the game is so quick that at elite levels, you got to be careful not to get out of position. So I think that there's a lot of real teachable moments. I think safety, proper technique, and the various times it'll be used in a game is where I would start.
So Kim, one final message to the coaches in U15 and U18, the two age groups that have full body checking. What would you tell them in regards to body checking as to coaches? How are you going to teach this, and how are you going to use it in a way that promotes respect and sportsmanship to the opposition and to the game of hockey?
Well, I think it starts with the coach. I really do. I mean, I think part of what we sign up for as coaches and leaders in youth sport is that we're responsible for the players. And I think that we start there with they need to respect the game, the officials, and they need to understand and have the approach that, yes, it's part of the game, but it's a small part of the game. And I think that players will often react based on how their leaders react and how their leaders coach and how their leaders approach the game. So I think my suggestion would be, teach the proper technique. Make sure that your players understand the where and the when and the why of why we do body contact. It's not going away at junior, at the NHL and youth sport and various professional levels. So I think we owe it to them, the players, to be leaders, to teach them the right way, correct the wrong way, all with the purpose of keeping the kids safe and enjoying the game of hockey.